was binding into the bark. So that stuff's got to come off. But I'm going to wait to do that for just maybe a couple more weeks because it's cold out here and I don't want to be fooling around with wire. We've been having one of those Michigan winters that just never seems to want to give way to spring. We had frost 2 nights ago, and it is, what today is, 26th. So that's kind of that's interesting. Though I won't say it's uncommon. We had 10 inches of snow on the 10th of May a number of years ago, so it's not an uncommon event. Doesn't mean I have to like it. And then, of course, too, having said that, you know, if you can believe what you want to believe about things. I'm trying to sell people on the idea and the concept that a Mugo Pine is a great tree for bonsai. And I run into all kinds of flack because it's not as bad as it used to be. But I used to have all kinds of problems with people. I'd tell you, well, you can't grow a bonsai out of a Mugo Pine. Well, I beg to differ with you. I mean, all you got to do is look at some of the European websites and you find out that they've got Mugo Pines growing all over the place. Then I've heard people say, well, you know, they have special varieties. We have all of these hybrid things. Well, this isn't a hybrid. This is the same kind of, this is a Pumilio as far as I know, which is the same species I've heard a lot of people say is, oh, this is a superior species for Mugo Pine. For doing bonsai. Well, you know, there's Pumilio, there's Tyrolean, which is one of my favorites, and you know, there's not a Mugo Pine that I don't think cannot be made into a bonsai. A lot of people just trying to find out reasons why they can't grow them, and I keep trying to tell people the reason why you can't grow them is because you're doing it wrong. But there's some people that don't want to hear that. So it seems that has kind of slacked off over the last couple of years, and I'm thankful for that because some really good people, some really talented bonsai growers have convinced themselves, well, you can't make a bonsai out of a Mugo Pine. So they don't try, and it's really sad. I'd like to see this tree in the hands of somebody that knows what the heck they're doing. You know, instead of some ham-fisted schlub like me. I can keep the thing alive for 40 years. And a lot of people say, well, I can't keep them alive for more than 5. Well, there's got to be a reason, and it isn't because of climate. It isn't because of where you're at. And it isn't because the trees are inferior. You can't keep it alive because you're doing something wrong and refuse to buy into the fact that that might be a real possibility. However, here we go, the same old thing. So just know that up front. You're not going to find a whole lot of people that have a whole lot of knowledge about what to do with the Mugo Pine. I'm sorry I bumped the table. But here again, that's okay. I'm trying not to judge people about it. It's just not that important a thing. Now here's an interesting problem. This area right here is overly dense. So what do we do with it? Well, here's a piece that's growing straight up. Just a little guy. Remove that. Here's another one. I like doing that because here's one down in a joint. Sometimes that's what will happen, especially in the vigorous parts of the tree. They'll get all kinds of, I don't know if I can make you see it without running the risk of pulling things off, which I do not want to do. But you get down into the joints where the branches come together and all kinds of little buds will start to break in those areas. And they'll throw out branches and all kinds of stuff. And it makes it difficult sometimes to do this. And that's another thing that bothers people about Mugo Pines. They're so bloody tedious. A lot of people don't like them for that reason. But you get over the things that are the faults of the tree's wonderful. I remember the first time I went into the bonsai club that I belonged to, when I went to show some of my trees at the club show. And before people sat down and took a close look at them, they all said, "Wow, where did you get the Japanese white pines?" Because a Mugo pine has the same kind of growth pattern. The needles turn up, they're nice and graceful, they're soft looking, and they point up like little fingers on a hand. I mean, it's a gorgeous tree. What is not to like about a Mugo pine? Well, it's not a black pine. Well, no, it's not, and I don't want to try to make one look like a black pine. There's nothing wrong with a black pine. But it's not a Mugo pine. It's different. Just like a black pine isn't a Japanese white pine. Nobody's trying to vilify the Japanese white pine because it's not a Japanese black pine. It's just different. And so here we are. And right now, just kind of making a big mess of needles all over the place. But I think you can see how this kind of tidied up this image a little bit by getting those bottom growing needles off. It just took that to make the tree look just a little bit more finished. Because that accentuates the way these needles grow, the tree grows, you know, the fingers turned up. Everybody wants you to turn the buds up. Well, Mugo pine will do that by itself for the most part. But, you know, how can you not like a tree that'll do that? I don't think you can. Not and be honest with yourself anyway. So we'll let this tree go for a while. I'll find a couple other things to bring over here and show you what's going on.